male commercial worker known as the Punisher has taken the stand at the trial of rapper Sean Diddy Combs. He told the court that he had about 8 to 12 sexual encounters with Cassie in front of Diddy, but he said he never received the impression that she was participating against her will. He said that Diddy was in full control of these sexual performances, and at times that led to him not being able to perform. He told the court that he was currently working on a book about erectile dysfunction called In Search of the Freezer Meat, where he details his experience with Cassie and Diddy, but he does not use their names. Sean Diddy Combs denies all the charges and says he's never sexually assaulted anyone.
The third witness of the day today in the Diddy trial was the Punisher, a male dancer and a repeat participant of the FOs. He says the first time that he met Cassie and Diddy was in a hotel suite at the Trump Tower overlooking Central Park. He says Cassie opens the door and she's wearing a bathrobe with nothing on underneath. He looks around and the furniture is covered in white sheets, and scattered around the room are bowls filled with water and bottles of baby oil. In her testimony, Cassie said that they used to put sheets on top of furniture to protect it, and that they would put bottles of baby oil in a bowl of water to warm it up. Hayes wrote about that encounter in a book that he recently published about erectile dysfunction. He said the hotel looked like a scene out of American Psycho, and he freaked out. Hayes testified that when he entered the room, Cassie specifically told him not to acknowledge the man in the room, a man that he later identified as Diddy wearing a veil. But he says he noticed Diddy, and it made him very uncomfortable and difficult to perform. Now, the defense asked him the title of his book, and he responded, In Search of Freezer Meat. Then Diddy's attorney, Xavier Donaldson, went down the same line of questioning that he did with Daniel Phillip, the other dancer who testified. Donaldson asking both men if they caught feelings for Cassie, because both men did testify that she was the most beautiful woman that they've ever seen. But Hayes said no, and Diddy's attorney congratulated him on the book. Diddy's attorney ended cross-examination by asking Hayes what he meant when he described an encounter as steamy, to which Hayes responded, I felt it was enjoyable for Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs.
When you say that it was clear that Diddy was directing the sex scenes and the sex acts, because as you described, it started off as just a sexy scene, but it progressed into actual sex over the course of the free-costs. What kind of direction did you get the sense? Like aggressive, mean, demanding, or just, hey, this is kinky, let's do this?
As I described in the text, they were very subtle. Mr. Combs was always basically across the room, and it would be in a low tone, and it would just be suggestive. It was nothing aggressive, nothing that would create some sort of scenario that this was like unnatural between them. Obviously, a sexual scenario with a couple is not the norm, but it's something that I had heard about before, and there's some couples that get into this. And in hindsight, if there were no accusations, I would have saw it as completely natural.
Can you repeat that? You would have seen it as what?
If there was no accusations, like in hindsight, all this stuff is in hindsight. Like in the moment, I didn't see it as anything but a couple doing something risque, and Cassie as a partner trying to create a fantasy for who I believed was her husband, and for the majority of this.
Look, more and more as this Diddy trial unfolds, it's clear as day what's going on here. Cassie is just a bird who was trying to get on. Let's be real. So far, the conclusion of everything is Cassie played every single man that she been with. That's the simple conclusion of this situation so far. It started with Ryan Leslie.
When I first got into the music game, we talked about Tommy Mottola. It was Tommy and Puff. Those were my mentors. Puff was on the management side. Tommy signed me as an artist on the publishing side. Puff and Gwen Niles, they managed me. But I've always been in my own insulated. I didn't see any of this going on. I literally did not see any of it. So all I saw was someone who gave me an opportunity, somebody who put me in the room with all the biggest artists. My first placement ever was on Beyonce because of this connection. Britney Spears, doing Danny D. Kane, singles for Loon, singles for New Edition. But that's because I basically was in my little ivory tower making stuff, sending it, and literally, incredible connections and opportunities were being created from the music. So all I needed to do was be in the music. But even today, I mean, y'all can see, like from even me being in Harvard that young, I never acquired a taste for alcohol, for drugs, for partying. And not to say when I got to New York, that's actually how I met Cassie, because I was like, yo, I'm a big producer now. I'm going to the club, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like, I have never really had that as a vice. I think I have obsessiveness in other pursuits. So I would have never, literally never. And also, you know, folks have always talked to me and said, hey, you know, they've asked me, you know, hey, how do you feel? Were you heartbroken? You know, Puff took your girl, whatever it was. And like, I understand when a story or a narrative is not for me. And once it was no longer for me, then there were other narratives and stories for me to invest my time, energy, and resources into. So even for all of this yeah, of course you heard, but I was just in my ivory tower the whole time. So I would have never.
I admire your attitude.
For sure.
I admire your maturity. I admire you holding it down. For
sure.
Because, you know, there could have been a lot of things you could have answered that, and you answered that like a grown man. You answered like a person that is not petty. And I'm very petty. So I can recognize when a person is not going down that same block that I stay on.
Artemis said the love triangle between you, Diddy, and Cassie ruined your momentum. Do you think that?
Did it ruin my momentum? Well, I mean, in terms of what?
Just music.
Just in music.
Yeah, the music.
No, I think it actually was great for my momentum. I mean, some of the best songs that I ever wrote had to do with that breakup, you know? So whether it's, you know, people's favorite songs like Out of the Blue or any of the records that are on that second album or even Diamond Girl, a lot of those songs, I mean.
Then she left him and got with Diddy and did Diddy the same thing.
Kid Cudi walks towards the federal courthouse, smoking a cigarette, wearing a leather jacket, a white t-shirt, and some blue jeans, looking like he don't give a. First thing I'll say is Cudi maintains his confidence throughout his testimony, even making the jury chuckle at one point. He tells us that he first meets Cassie in 2008, but it wasn't until 2010 that Diddy approached him about collaborating with her. So in 2011, the two get in the studio together, and things don't end well. Cudi says the two got close, and he fell in love with her, and to his knowledge, she and Diddy were over. He says the two talk every day, and then towards the end of the year, she confides in him and tells him that Diddy abuses her, that he hits and kicks her, and it infuriates him because he loves her. And then one day, shortly before Christmas, Cudi gets a call from Cassie around 6 a.m. in the morning, and she sounds stressed. She's panicking. She tells him that Diddy found out that the two were dating. Then she says something that stresses him out even more, that she gave Diddy his address and that she doesn't know what Diddy's gonna do. So the two check into a nearby hotel. Cudi says Cassie's a wreck. And then Cudi gets a call from Capricorn Clark, who is Diddy's former assistant. And she tells him, Diddy is inside your house. At this point, Cudi says Diddy has crossed the line. So he calls him, angry. And in a calm voice, he says Diddy tells him he's here so that they can talk. So now Cudi says he's rushing home so that he can fight Diddy. But then on his way, he realizes that he doesn't know what he's walking into. He doesn't know if he has guns. So he calls the cops. Now, Cudi says he left his front door unlocked, but when he gets home, he realizes the security cameras have moved. And when he goes inside, he sees that Christmas presents have been opened and that his dog that roams freely around in the house was locked in the bathroom. Days later, Cudi flies to Connecticut to be with Cassie and her family for Christmas. And it was during this time that Regina Ventura, Cassie's mother, says she received an email from her daughter that made her physically ill. Cassie opened up about the abuse and told her mom that Diddy was threatening to release a sex tape starring her on Christmas Day and another shortly after. And that he also threatened to send someone to her, both her and Kid Cudi. During this trip, Kid Cudi says that Diddy was calling him multiple times, but he didn't want to talk to him, accusing him of breaking into his home and hurting his dog. Now it's 2012, and the relationship that Kid Cudi had with Cassie is fizzling. But things are about to get worse. Cudi is out of town and gets a call from his dog sitter telling him his car is on fire. His reaction? What the? Someone had ripped a hole in the top of his black Porsche convertible and dropped a Molotov cocktail inside. The inside was badly damaged and charred. Cudi says he realizes things are getting out of hand, so he calls Diddy and says he's ready to talk. So the two arrange to meet at the Soho house. Cudi says he walks into a private room and standing there is Diddy, looking out of the window overlooking Beverly Hills. He says he looked like a Marvel supervillain. And I'm not gonna lie, the courtroom chuckled, even the jury. He says the two started talking about how he started dating Cassie, what it was, and how it ended, with Diddy responding, "You knew she was my girl." Cudi described Diddy's demeanor as calm, courteous, a little too courteous, saying he offered me water at least 2 times. Cudi says Cassie eventually shows up, and it upsets him because he realizes the two are back together. The conversation is done, the two men stand up, he says, they shake hands, and he says while he is shaking Diddy's hand, he looks him right in the eyes and says, "So what are we gonna do about my car?" And he says Diddy looks him right back in the eyes and says, "I don't know what you're talking about." Years later, Cudi says that he runs into Diddy and Diddy apologizes for everything. And he says that brought him peace because he never thought he would get an apology. It's Brian Steele's turn to cross-examine Kid Cudi, and he's not holding back. The first thing that jumps out to me about Brian is his tone. He's direct, confident, but succinct. He's what you would think a defense attorney would be in a movie. And the first thing that Brian, who made headlines for defending Young Thug, did was zero in on Kid Cudi's car being set on fire. He asked Cudi about the police report and the fingerprint samples that were collected from the scene. Then came the twist. He revealed to Cudi that those fingerprints belonged to a woman. He said he had no idea, but Brian wasn't finished. He then pivoted to Cassie. He said, quote, "She played you." He said that she made him think that she was over Diddy, that she was convincing, that she was deceiving. And Kid Cudi simply said, "I had no clue." Brian then started complimenting Cudi, saying he's an accomplished artist, someone who goes on an international tour and has a large fan base. Brian then said, "Cudi, remember when you called Diddy an icon?" and started pointing to his client's success as a mogul in music, fashion, business, etc. And then he threw shade, saying Diddy can make people tremendously famous, or at least he tries to. Brian then points out that when Cudi and Cassie were in the studio, that Diddy wasn't hovering, he wasn't blowing up her phone, he wasn't even in the room. But when Brian Steele tried to ask about the details of their sex life, the prosecutor immediately objected. But then he kept going, calling Cassie fun, outgoing, interesting, carefree. He then asked Cudi if Cassie ever brought up sexual abuse when she opened up about the physical abuse, and Cudi said no. Steele kept going. Was there anything that connected Diddy to the fire? Was there any evidence that he had a gun? And Cudi said no. Then came the Soho House meeting, where Brian Steele painted it as two men who have been misled. All I could think of was Usher and R. Kelly standing there realizing they're messing with the same girl. He said that Cassie was living two different lives, and then dropped this line: "The same person that played you played Sean, and that's Miss Ventura." He delivered it like a mic drop moment, the kind of moment that's supposed to hang in the air and stick with the jury. Before he wrapped, he circled back to the burner phone and had Cudi explain to the jury that it's a phone that can be traced, and then closed cross with a reminder that it was Cassie who gave Diddy Cudi's address.
And this is why when you meet a woman, if she cheated on her boyfriend with you, you never wife that woman up. You treat her like who she is. You treat her like the person that she is. And that's exactly what Diddy was doing with the freak offs. He was just feeding that bird nature. Believe it or not, she was enjoying the freak offs, bro.
Events Combs stage dominated much of the testimony from Tuesday and Wednesday. Now that the defense is asking about the subject and displaying text messages to the jury in an apparent effort to show Cassie's enthusiasm for them. The defense is reading Combs as part of the email and text exchanges and having Cassie recite what she wrote to him at the time. "When do you want to freak off, LOL?" Combs asked in August of 2009. "I'm always ready to freak off," she replied. 2 days later, Cassie sent an explicit message to Combs where he said, "I can't wait to watch you. I want to get you real hot." She replied, "Me too. I just want it to be uncontrollable."
And as a man, sometimes you get with a chick and you peep her nature and you handle it accordingly. The worst thing Diddy could have done was to marry her or have a baby by her, because now she would have been after more of his money. That's just the bottom line. But this is a chick who played every single man that she been with. And then after she not only played Diddy with Kid Cudi, she turned around, left Diddy, got with Diddy personal trainer, and then cheated on her personal trainer with Diddy.
Now Cassie's husband has to be a strong man, because what she just admitted on that stand would make any man pack up his stuff and leave her and the children. After everything Diddy did to Cassie, from the frequent FO sessions to the hotel attack, Cassie decided to cheat on her now husband with Diddy. Yes, Cassie cheated on Alex Fine with Diddy. Earlier today, Cassie testified that after finally leaving Diddy for good, the two of them met up for closure. Cassie recalled them going to a restaurant in Malibu and Diddy trying to convince her to attend Burning Man with him. Cassie declined, but says that night Diddy assaulted her on her living room floor and then walked out. Now what's even crazier is after all of this happened, Cassie decided to cheat on her now husband with Diddy. Although Cassie had recently been assaulted by Diddy, the next encounter was consensual, which she called a good time. When asked why would she go back after being assaulted, Cassie said it's because she was with Diddy for 10 years.
Cold game. You know why? It's hard for a bird to leave a man with money. Even if she moves on, but that bird will still be looking. Damn, he's still in mansions? He's still living lavish? He's still on private jets? She's gonna get mad and she's gonna come for you, bro. And that's all this is, bro. This is just a money-hungry bird coming for Diddy. But nevertheless, I mean, we know the type of person that Diddy is. He's a monster. It is what it is. He's ruthless. That's how he became successful, by choosing a ruthless formula. But if you're a weak person and you're desperate to get on, you will stand by that monster. There's a bunch of people who is calling Diddy a monster and stuff like that, but y'all will still sign to him for the price of fame. Let's be real. People will do worse for the price of fame. But this is what it is, man. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. It's your boy AyeQ. I'm out, man.